Hello there. Right, well, I'm really excited to start to talk about page 14 in the Focus book. Page 14, the second principle. So far we have talked about how you are important, and because you are important, you are here to do things. The things you do will be affected by what you notice, and what you notice is all about what you're focusing on. So we started to learn about the mechanism of focus, and there's lots of different focus modes, and we talked about that in the bench chapter, recognizing different focus modes. And then we talked a little bit about, are we like bees? How come human beings how are they different from creatures? We talked about that. And then we talked about being in flow, which is looking at when we are in really the best focus. Where are we? We are in the present. Where are we? We're in this real world. Who are you aware of? You are aware of yourself and how you are experiencing this. And objects of interest, what's happening around you that you're giving your attention to, because once you give your attention to something, it becomes alive and real. So what we need to be doing as we go forward is to be giving things attention that are actually married and the same as who you are, and then you'll feel good about that. So that's what we've done so far. Okay, so now we're going on to the second principle. So just to recap, the first principle was your focus is the most important life skill you need, and that's because you are important, and what you focus on determines your experience of life. What you focus on becomes alive and real. So the second principle, I'm going to actually read this out to you. We go back a little bit to the beginning. The quote from chapter 2 is very important. Here it is again. It's been found that we human beings have different places that we can go and visit within ourselves. Depending on where we go, our life experience around us changes. Does this really make sense? It sounds like a fantastic statement. Could it be true that one reason you are different from a bee is because you can visit different places within yourself, and a bee can't? A bee can only focus in one way, and so this makes bee life pretty simple. You are much more complex. You have two distinct places within yourself that are very different to each other. You need to understand how these internal mechanisms work so you can gain control of your focus. The two places contained within yourself are called the mind and who you are. Now this is really important. Your focus is like a taxi that can take you to visit either of these places. Once you arrive at your destination, you give it your full attention. This is so important. I'm going to read it again. Your focus is like a taxi that can take you to visit either of these places. Once you arrive at your destination, you give it your full attention. Becoming familiar with both of these destinations is essential. Recognizing what each destination is good for enables you to decide which one to visit depending on what you want to do. This is important to learn. Being aware of this second principle is another key step towards controlling your focus. Here are descriptions of them both. So then I go into, in the book, the Focus book, descriptions of the mind, what it's like when you visit the mind. And there's a picture there of what happens. We visit the mind when we go on any screen. And what we do when we go on any screen, because we're visiting the mind, we then start to relate to the world through our mind. We're giving our attention to the world through our mind. We're giving our attention to a screen. So what happens when we give our attention to that screen is it becomes alive and real. And once you start to think about it like that, it's really quite incredible. You make that computer screen become real. If you're not looking at it, it's not real. It's just a black screen. But once you start to engage with it, whether it's to talk to your friends, to play a game, go on social media, it becomes alive and real. Your attention has given it life. Yeah? And it starts to affect you, and it becomes part of your real experience. Even though, in itself, if you don't give it your attention, it is not real. Very interesting. Anyway, I go through what the mind is like, and how you can recognize when you're visiting the mind. And then I go through the who you are part of you, and what that is like, and what lives there. So, and I go through that. And then the last page I'll read you in a minute, and it's got a picture, and I show you the picture, the real life version of it. There. So how do you teach this? So what I suggest, this is quite a fun one to teach, because we're starting to get really quite into unknown territory probably, and you can say to your child or whoever you're supporting is, hey, guess what? There's 2 parts of yourself that you can visit. There's 2. So let's see what that's like. And you can, in a room, have 2 different spaces in a room, and you go visit them. And in each space in the room, you can put things in there that represent the activities that you do when you visit that part of yourself. Okay? And I go through that in the book. I'm not going to go through all the details. But again, if you comment, you try things out. Comment if you need extra resources. I can give you extra resources. But basically, what my point is that when you visit the who you are part of yourself, which is where who you are lives, and that includes things that mean a lot to you, like I might really love horses, say. So if I'm going to visit a horse, or if I'm going horse riding, that will give me meaning and purpose, because it means something to me. I have a personal connection to it. Now, as you can see, hopefully, it looks like when you are visiting your who you are in that flow state of focus. So when we're in the flow state of focus, what's happening? When are you present? Where are you in your real world? What are you aware of? You, and you're starting to become aware of now, because we're digging in a little bit deeper now, that being aware of yourself is seeing the aspects of who you are that is coming out in the activity you're doing. Okay, that will give you, your child and yourself, a sense of meaning and purpose. Okay, and the last thing, again, object of interest. If it's lined up with the elements of who you are, you will start to create meaning and purpose. Okay, so we become basically in the flow state once we start to visit who we are. So again, you can play with that a little bit. You can, as I said in the last video, you can do when, where, who, and personal connection, object of interest. You can have that in a little piece of paper. Keep writing that down in different environments. So in your room, if you go to one space, there could be mind things in that space. In the other part of the room, there can be who you are things in. And basically, if what this illustrates is that if we focus on the who you are part of of focus, if we focus on the who you are part of you, if that's where you visit, and if that's what you're paying attention to, and if that's the basis on what you're going to make a decision, what shall I do today? Let's visit who I am. Let's visit something that is within me that I really feel is me. Let's go horse riding. So then I start to go horse riding, and I start to have meaning and purpose, and I start to feel good. So we've now built a little resilient little step here, because today I've done that. No one can take that away from me, because I've done that. And what you will find is that the more you focus on who you are, and the more you start to bring who you are into your life, and you are aware of it, and you give it your attention, you are actually slowly building up some really good foundations. These little steps create good feels. So that number one could be, I like horse riding. So every time you go horse riding, that's what you're doing. Number two could be, I don't know, I enjoy having tea with my parents. I enjoy going to see my brother. I enjoy spending time with myself reading this book I like with that author. So I now start to do that as well in my day, and then I can build up other things. So slowly you build up strong foundations. Okay, so this is the beginning of resilience. So take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.